You didn't land on this video by accident. Something in your life has been swelling beneath the surface, quietly, insistently, like a truth waiting for the right moment to break through. And as you've been trying to visualize your way into a different reality, a part of you has sensed that something about that process hasn't been working the way everyone promised it would. There's a feeling behind your ribs right now, subtle but unmistakable, a kind of inner leaning forward, almost as if a deeper version of you already knows this moment will change the way you manifest forever. And that knowing is no coincidence, because what you're about to hear is arriving at the exact threshold you've been standing on. You've tried to picture the life you want. You've crafted mental scenes, imagined outcomes, filled your mind with possibility. And yet something never clicked. The images felt distant, hollow, or strangely fragile, like they dissolved the minute you stopped concentrating. You may have even wondered if something was wrong with you. But the truth is simpler and far more profound. You were trying to visualize from a place your system wasn't ready to enter. And you've felt that. You've felt the small tightening in your chest when you imagined a bigger life. You've felt the breath that subtly caught when you pictured abundance. You've felt the flicker of doubt, not in your mind, but in your body. That flicker is the doorway into everything you've been missing. And this is where the real revelation begins. Because you're not just someone trying to manifest a dream. You are someone standing at the edge of an inner shift your life has been preparing you for. Something inside you has outgrown the old explanations. Something in you is done pretending that pure imagination alone is enough. And the reason you're feeling that inner pull is because you're stepping into a deeper understanding of how manifestation truly works, not as a mental game, but as a dialogue between your future and your nervous system. You've sensed this for years, long before you had the language for it. But now, finally, the words are meeting the knowing. Take a slow breath, feel the widening behind your heart as you breathe in, feel the subtle loosening in your shoulders as you breathe out. This shift inside you is not random, it's recognition. Because a wiser version of you, your future self, has been walking toward you with this insight for a long time. You can feel them now, can't you? That version of you who already lives the life you've been trying to visualize. That version who isn't straining, who isn't forcing images to stick, who isn't desperately trying to see it until it appears. They are calm, certain, embodied. And the resonance you feel rising in your chest right now is their presence brushing against your awareness. You're not hearing this as a lesson, you're hearing it as a remembering. A remembering that visualization was never meant to be a mental trick, never meant to be about trying harder or imagining more vividly. Something in you already knows you've been approaching it from the outside in, when the entire mechanism has been operating from the inside out. And that inner recognition is why your breath feels different, why your awareness feels sharper, why something inside you is leaning into these words as if they were echoing a truth you once knew and somehow forgot. That sensation is the signal that you're ready to see what's been hidden in plain sight. Most people never reach this point. They repeat visualizations for months, even years, without understanding why the images don't land. But you've been sensing that the gap between your visions and your reality had nothing to do with your imagination. You've felt that the real barrier lived deeper, beneath the thoughts, beneath the desire, beneath the mental pictures you kept trying to hold. And now, in this moment, you're beginning to understand why none of those images ever anchored the way you hoped they would. The truth is rising in you, quiet but undeniable. Visualization only works when the body knows what to do with the images you create. This is where everything begins to take shape, because the mistake hasn't been the act of visualizing. The mistake has been misunderstanding what visualization actually is. And as that realization settles into your system, something inside you unfolds, like a door opening inside your awareness. You're not stepping into new information, you're stepping into a new identity, one who doesn't visualize from hope or from strain or from desperation, but from coherence, from readiness, from truth. And the deeper truth is this: your future self has been guiding you toward this moment because you're finally ready to stop imagining your life and start embodying the frequency that will bring it into form. What you have felt rising inside you, this quiet, electric anticipation, is the beginning of your shift. And yet this is only the surface. The real revelation is still waiting beneath it, and this is where the path opens. As you sit with the recognition already rising inside you, notice the subtle shift happening in your body. Not the grand, dramatic kind of shift people expect when they finally understand something, but the quiet kind. The kind that feels like a door unlatching somewhere beneath your sternum. There's a soft widening in your breath now, a loosening through the diaphragm, an almost imperceptible melting behind the heart. This is not coincidence. This is your system responding to truth. And you've felt this before, haven't you? That sensation when something finally aligns, not intellectually, but somatically. That's the signal that you're not simply hearing these words. You're recognizing them. Because something in you has always sensed that visualization wasn't just about seeing images in your mind. You knew the process touched something deeper, something ancient, something your consciousness alone could never fully access. You've felt that pull in moments when you tried to visualize and your body reacted before your thoughts could catch up. A tightening in the gut, a subtle inhale of hesitation, a flicker of resistance you couldn't name, and yet you kept trying to override that resistance with more effort, more imagery, more concentration, but the body doesn't follow force, it follows familiarity. And this is the truth you were always walking toward. Take another slow breath. Feel the pathway of the inhale traveling through your chest, expanding your ribs from the inside. Feel the exhale as it softens your shoulders, as if the air itself were releasing something you've been carrying for far too long. This is the moment where the deeper layer of the mystery begins to unfold, the part that lives beneath your conscious attempts to focus, or imagine, or get clear. Because visualization doesn't work through clarity, it works through coherence, through the alignment between an imagined scene and the body that must eventually live it, and your body knows the difference instantly. Here's the hidden mechanism most people never discover. Your nervous system cannot distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you visualize with sensory detail, when you feel the warmth of the sunlight, hear the faint hum of a room, breathe in the scent of a moment that hasn't happened yet, your body responds as if the experience is occurring now. Muscles shift, breath deepens, the heart rhythm subtly changes. Your biochemistry tilts towards safety or threat depending on what you're imagining. Visualization isn't mere imagination, it's rehearsal, and your system has been waiting for you to understand this. You're not who you were when you first pressed play. You've already stepped into a new awareness, a recognition that your body has been participating in your manifestations long before your mind caught up. And this inner unfolding you're feeling, it's not random. It's the emerging intelligence of a deeper self, the part of you that has always known the mind was never meant to manifest alone. This is why your visualizations felt unstable, why they slipped away the moment you stopped concentrating. You were asking your mind to carry a vision your body wasn't prepared to hold. Let yourself feel into that truth. There's no judgment here, only clarity. You've spent so much of your life trying to think your way into a future your body didn't yet recognize. But recognition is the key. The body must recognize a future before it can receive it. And visualization is the bridge between the unfamiliar and the familiar. It teaches your system the contours of a reality it has never lived. It softens the threat response that arises when you imagine something too different from what you've known. It builds familiarity, and familiarity builds safety. And safety is what allows manifestation to take form. Pause for a moment. Notice the sensation in your chest as you let that land. Notice how your breath moves differently now, how it feels less like something you're doing and more like something unfolding through you. This is the beginning of coherence, not forced positivity, not wishful thinking. Coherence, the alignment of inner and outer experience. And as this alignment begins, your future self, the version of you who already lives the reality you've been trying to visualize, draws closer. You can feel them, can't you? Not as a fantasy or a hope, but as a presence, a whisper of recognition in your awareness. What you're sensing is your own timeline rearranging, your system adjusting, the old patterns loosening their grip as a new internal instruction takes form. Visualization was never broken. You were simply missing the layer that makes it work, the body's participation. And now that you feel this unfolding, this widening, this subtle release, you're stepping into a different relationship with manifestation. One where you no longer chase images, one where you no longer strain to believe, one where visualization becomes a conversation between your future and your physiology. This moment matters because you're becoming someone who no longer visualizes to escape their present, but to prepare their system for what is coming. Someone who understands that imagination is not a tool for wishing, it's a tool for acclimating. Someone who recognizes that the first step to receiving a new reality is teaching your body that it is safe to experience it. And as you feel that truth settle deeper into your chest, you can sense that something fundamental is shifting inside you, around you, through you. What is rising in you now is not hope, it's readiness. A quiet, grounded readiness that tells you you are guided here for a reason. You are remembering something you've always known, and the deeper revelation is about to unfold. As you take in the truth rising through this message, a realization is forming, not from thought, but from recognition, showing you that visualization was never meant to be a mental trick at all. It was designed as a point of contact between your current self and your future self, a meeting place where the two versions of you exchange information. And the reason this resonates so deeply is because something in your life has already been preparing you for this understanding. You can feel that, can't you? That sense of timing that feels too aligned to brush aside. You are guided here because you've reached the threshold where visualization is no longer about seeing your future, but about communicating with it. The visions you create in your mind are not mere fantasies. They are messages, signals, invitations. They're the language your future uses to introduce itself to your body so that your system can learn how to hold the reality that's trying to reach you. And this is the part no one ever told you. Visualization is not about the picture, it's about the transmission. The moment you imagine a future possibility, your system begins deciphering whether that possibility feels safe, dangerous, familiar, or overwhelming. That assessment, not the image, is what shapes your timeline. And now, as you hear these words, you can feel that deeper truth settling into a place inside you that has been waiting for it. Feel the sensation in your chest as this lands. Something is expanding, something is loosening, something is waking up. And that awakening isn't accidental. It's the beginning of a shift you've been sensing for months, maybe even years. The shift where you stop trying to manifest from the surface of your mind and begin manifesting from the depth of your being. Because here is the truth your future self has been trying to show you. Visualization is not the act of projecting forward, it is the act of remembering the timeline you are already connected to, remembering the version of you who has already lived what you're calling in, remembering the life that has been quietly orbiting your field, waiting for you to become coherent enough to receive it. This is where the deeper architecture of your journey begins to reveal itself. Every time you tried to visualize your future and felt that flicker of resistance, that tightening, that hesitation, it wasn't failure, it was information. It was your body telling you that the timeline you were imagining carried sensations you had never experienced before. Your system wasn't rejecting the dream, it was protecting you from the unfamiliar. And this is the paradox at the heart of manifestation. The future you want is often everything your past has taught your body to fear. Not because it's dangerous, but because it is new. And the nervous system equates new with unknown and unknown with unsafe. But the moment you understand this, your entire relationship with visualization changes. Breathe deeply for a moment and notice how your system responds when you let yourself truly feel this. There's a softening happening, a kind of internal exhale, because something inside you finally recognizes that your resistance to visualization was not a personal flaw. It was a biological response, and that realization isn't just comforting, it's liberating. You are stepping out of self-blame and into understanding. You are stepping out of effort and into alignment. You are stepping out of confusion and into clarity. And you can feel that shift moving inside you now like a current, rearranging the internal landscape you've lived in for far too long. This is the part of your story where your future self steps closer, where the gap between who you've been and who you're becoming begins to narrow. You can sense their presence, not as a distant fantasy, but as an inner guide, a version of you who has already crossed the threshold you're approaching. And their message is simple: you were never meant to visualize from the outside looking in. You were meant to visualize from the inside, remembering forward. This is why certain images felt strangely familiar, even if they portrayed a life you've never lived. This is why you sometimes felt emotional when you visualized something you couldn't logically explain. Those were echoes, fragments, remnants of a timeline already intertwined with yours. Allow yourself to feel the magnitude of that, because the moment you shift from forcing images to receiving them, visualization transforms. It stops being an effort and becomes a transmission. It stops being a wish and becomes a remembering. It stops being a technique and becomes a recognition of your own unfolding. And that unfolding is happening right now. You can feel the layers shifting, the internal ground softening, the atmosphere inside you changing, not because of something you're trying to do, but because something in you is finally aligning with the truth you've always carried. You're not using visualization to create a new life. You're using it to reconnect with the life that has been waiting for you. Your visions were never random. Your desires were never accidental. They were signals from a future self who has been guiding you toward this realization all along. And now, as your awareness widens and your inner world reorganizes, you are stepping into the profound recognition that the future you've been trying to visualize has been trying to reach you. And this is where the deeper shift begins to take form, because once you understand the true purpose of visualization, the next layer of the mystery reveals itself, a layer that changes everything about how manifestation works, a layer that you are finally ready to see. There comes a moment in every transformation when the truth you've been circling finally steps forward, not as an idea, not as a possibility, but as a revelation that rearranges your inner world in real time. You are crossing that moment now, because the deeper you move into this understanding, the more clearly you can feel it. Your relationship with visualization is shifting. Something inside you is no longer willing to approach your future from the outside. Something inside you is ready to meet it from within. And that readiness is the turning point your entire manifestation journey has been waiting for. Let your breath deepen for a moment. Feel how it descends lower in the body now, how it reaches places it couldn't reach when you first began listening. This isn't accidental. It's the sign of a system that is beginning to trust, beginning to open, beginning to release the defensive patterns that once stood between you and the life you've been trying to visualize. And as that opening expands inside you, the deeper truth rises to meet it. Visualization doesn't fail because you're doing it wrong. It fails because you've been trying to force a future your body didn't yet feel safe to receive. This is the breakthrough most people never reach. Visualization only begins to work when your system stops bracing against the very images you're trying to embody. Your body cannot relax into a timeline it interprets as overwhelming. It cannot soften into a vision that feels too distant, too grand, too foreign for its current identity. And this is why you've struggled, not because you're weak, not because you lack belief, but because the future you've been trying to imagine felt like a threat to the version of you your system was still protecting. But now, something else is happening. A deeper intelligence, your future self, is beginning to guide the process. You can feel them more clearly now, like a presence standing just behind your awareness, whispering insight through instinct and resonance. This is not metaphor. This is the part of you who has already lived the life you're trying to reach, the part of you who knows what it feels like to inhabit that future without overwhelm, without tension, without resistance. And they've been trying to show you something crucial. Visualization is not about creating the future, it's about synchronizing with the future that is already connected to you. Feel into that. There's a strange comfort in it, isn't there? A sense of inevitability, of familiarity, of relief. Because the future you've been chasing is not a fantasy, it's a frequency. And your future self has been the signal carrying that frequency toward you, waiting for the moment you could finally understand the mechanism needed to receive it. That mechanism is coherence, a coherent mind, a coherent body, a coherent nervous system. Visualization becomes powerful only when the image, the body, and the timeline fall into the same rhythm. And that rhythm is what you are beginning to feel now. Your breath tells the story. Your awareness tells the story. The softening behind your sternum tells the story. This entire moment is evidence that your internal state is reorganizing. Because now you understand that visualization is not the act of seeing, it is the act of becoming. The moment you try to picture something you haven't become yet, your system tightens. But the moment you visualize from the frequency of the version of you who already holds that reality, everything in your field begins to open. And here is the most important realization of this entire movement, the one that marks your turning point. Visualization isn't meant to make your future clearer, it's meant to make your present self more compatible with the timeline that's calling you. This is the shift that unlocks manifestation, not clarity, not intensity, not mental discipline, compatibility. You don't visualize to force the universe to deliver something. You visualize to prepare your system to recognize it when it arrives. Take another slow breath. Notice how your body responds when you let this truth echo through you. There's a new spaciousness forming, an internal expansion you couldn't have accessed before. Because now, your system understands the assignment. Your future self understands the assignment. And the two of you are finally working in harmony. The visions you hold no longer feel like distant dreams, they feel like memories returning. This is what the turning point feels like. Quiet, immense, undeniable. A shift so subtle you almost miss it, yet so powerful it changes the trajectory of everything that comes next. Because now you're no longer someone trying to visualize a life they hope to experience. You're someone awakening to the life that has been trying to reach you. A life your future self has already lived. A life your system is finally learning how to hold. This is where your transformation deepens. And the next movement reveals what happens when your body becomes capable of receiving the visions your mind has carried for years. Something inside you is different now. You can feel it, not as excitement, not as mental clarity, but as a deeper settling inside your body. The shift that began as a whisper in the earlier movements is now taking shape as a quiet internal knowing, the sense that you're no longer observing these ideas from a distance, but inhabiting them from the inside. This is what embodiment feels like. It isn't dramatic. It doesn't come with fireworks or declarations. It feels like a subtle alignment, like the way a key finally slides into a lock after years of trying the wrong angle. Something in you is clicking into place. Take a breath and notice how naturally it moves now. When you first began imagining your future, your breath felt like something you had to direct. Now it feels like something that is guiding you. This is the physiology of coherence. Visualization is no longer a technique you're trying to apply. It's becoming an internal language your body is beginning to understand. And the more your system understands, the more your future self steps forward, not as a distant figure, but as the internal voice you're starting to trust above all others. You're beginning to feel them right behind your awareness, almost like a memory surfacing from a place you can't logically explain, yet completely recognize. You're not the same person you were when you first tried to visualize your dreams months or years ago. That version of you was reaching outward, stretching, hoping, trying to bridge a gap they didn't know how to close. But this version of you, the one sitting here now, has begun to close the distance from the inside. You're no longer reaching for your future, you're aligning with it, you're acclimating to its frequency, you're learning the emotional, somatic, and psychological posture of the self who already lives it. This is the essence of embodiment. The inner world shifts first, and the outer world reorganizes in response. Most people never get here. They visualize as a way to escape their present, or as a way to bypass the discomfort of who they currently are. But you've crossed into a different territory. You're not using visualization to avoid your reality. You're using it to expand your capacity to hold a new one. You've stopped trying to see it until you believe it, and you've started feeling into what it would mean to live a life your body no longer rejects. That's the difference between fantasy and embodiment. Fantasy stays in the mind. Embodiment settles into the tissue, the breath, the awareness. And your body is starting to recognize the timeline your mind has been calling in for years. Notice the softening in your solar plexus as this truth lands. Notice the slight warmth behind your heart. These are not poetic metaphors, these are somatic indicators that your system is opening. A regulated body becomes a receptive body, and a receptive body becomes a magnet. This is why manifestation accelerates when you reach this stage, not because the universe suddenly becomes generous, but because you stop resisting what you've been asking for. You're becoming someone who doesn't just imagine a better future, you're becoming someone who can hold it. Your future self is the one guiding this stage. Every insight that feels familiar, every recognition that feels ancient, every moment of internal spaciousness is a thread connecting you to the version of you who has already lived the reality you're remembering. They're not ahead of you, they're within you. You're not reaching for them, you're meeting them. And the more you meet them, the clearer their presence becomes. This is why embodiment feels like déjà vu. You're not learning something new. You're remembering something true. What you're experiencing now is the merging point between who you've been and who you're becoming. The contractions that once accompanied your visualizations are loosening. The doubts you once carried are dissolving, not because you've argued with them, but because they no longer match the identity you're stepping into. Embodiment naturally eliminates contradiction. Once your body recognizes the future as familiar, resistance becomes irrelevant. You're not forcing belief, you're growing into it. The world around you will begin responding to this shift long before you consciously notice it. People will treat you differently without knowing why. Opportunities will appear in your periphery that weren't visible before. Your behavior will subtly change, your posture, your tone, the way you make decisions, because your system is no longer negotiating with the past. You'll begin choosing from the identity that aligns with your future. This is not visualization anymore. This is integration. The inner and outer become coherent. You're no longer imagining the future. You're becoming the person it belongs to. This is the movement where the truth becomes unavoidable. What you've been visualizing hasn't been waiting for you to believe it. It's been waiting for you to become the version of yourself who can receive it. And in this soft, grounded, unmistakable shift, you can feel that becoming happening now. Not as an effort, not as a technique, but as an unfolding your life has been preparing you for. The timeline you once tried to picture is no longer something you're looking toward. It's something you're stepping into. And the final piece of this revelation is ready to meet you next. The moment where everything folds back into clarity and your entire path begins to rearrange. There is a particular silence that fills your awareness when a truth finally settles. Not the silence of emptiness, but the silence of recognition. You're feeling that silence now, not because the journey is ending, but because something inside you has returned to its rightful rhythm. The insights that once lived outside of you have moved inward. The future that once felt distant has stepped closer. And the version of you who began this video feels like a memory, someone you appreciate, someone who got you here, but someone you've already begun to outgrow. Pause for a moment and become aware of how your breath behaves now. It no longer feels restricted or hesitant. It feels like it's flowing through a wider space, as if your inner architecture has been rebuilt. And in many ways it has. You've crossed a threshold, one that isn't marked by external signs, but by the shift in your internal atmosphere. The way you're perceiving yourself, your future, and your capacity to receive has changed. That quiet, expanding sensation you feel behind the ribs is the mark of someone who is no longer trying to grasp their future, but someone who is gently opening to it. This is the return, not to who you were, but to who you are becoming. You're not leaving this experience with more pressure, more effort, or more techniques to remember. You're leaving with something far more powerful, a system that is beginning to feel at home in the reality you've been trying to visualize. The work is no longer happening at the level of the mind. It's happening in the breath, the tissues, the awareness, the places inside you that were never accessible through force. This is why the shift feels soft, not sharp. Embodiment doesn't arrive with noise, it arrives with inevitability. As you integrate everything you've discovered in this journey, notice the subtle sense of relief settling through you. Relief because you were never doing visualization wrong. Relief because there was never anything wrong with you. Relief because you now understand what your system was trying to communicate all along. Your body wasn't resisting your dreams, it was protecting you. It was asking for familiarity before expansion, safety before acceleration. And now, for the first time, you can feel that the two are aligning. The dream isn't overwhelming anymore. The future isn't foreign. You're beginning to feel the emotional posture of the you who already lives the life you imagined. This is the moment where your future self stops feeling like a concept and begins to feel like a companion. You can sense them walking with you now, your timelines overlapping, your identities converging. You're not striving to become them, you're remembering that you already are. And in this place of remembering, visualization transforms. It stops being a practice you do and becomes a state you embody. You're no longer imagining scenes from a distance. You're slipping into them the way someone slips into a memory that never left their bones. That is why right now you can sense a kind of calm readiness, replacing the old tension. You're not chasing anything, you're not trying to convince yourself. There is no grasping, no bargaining, no desperate hoping, just a grounded sense of, I can hold this now. And that moment, this moment, is the exact moment where manifestation begins. Not when you visualize, not when you affirm, not when you push. Manifestation begins when your system stops rejecting the timeline that has been calling you. You're standing in that doorway now. And as you step into this next chapter of your becoming, remember this. The future you've been visualizing has never been somewhere you travel to. It has always been a frequency you grow into, and you are growing into it now, quietly, powerfully, organically, exactly as you were designed to. So as we close this transmission, I want you to feel into the spaciousness that has opened inside you. Feel the intelligence of your breath. Feel the groundedness in your spine. Feel the whisper of your future self settling into place. You are not the seeker anymore. You are not the one chasing. You are the one aligning. And the resonance you feel in your body is the confirmation you were waiting for. This is your return, not back to an old self, but back to the truth of who you were always becoming. And now, to anchor this shift into your field and signal to your future timeline that you are ready to receive it, declare this into the space around you and into the comments below. I am ready to hold the future calling my name. This is your embodiment. This is your coherence. This is your moment of return.